Ayo, it's AyoChikiMoko here, bringing you another Apex Legends video. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you for joining me today and honoring the world with your presence. Today, I'm going to be going over the stats for the new Mastiff. Well, it's not completely new, it was previously a care package weapon. However, with the release of Season 5, the developers decided to substitute out the Peacekeeper and sub in the Mastiff. So now the Mastiff is a common weapon that can be found with the ground loot. It also came with some very heavy nerfs. But as everyone in the Apex community can see, there's a very good reason why the Mastiff was deemed a care package weapon at launch. Because even with all the nerfs the Mastiff got, it's still making a huge impact on how we play the game. If you don't already know, in this series I break down each individual weapon that can be found in the Apex Legends arena, covering damage to recoil and how the stats change for the weapon that you're using when you come across both Fortified and low profile legends. I'll be giving you all the stats that I tested plus any additional information that I came across in my research. Then without any further ado, let's get into the video. Starting off with our damage, we see that each pellet hits for 13. So if you're able to land all 8 pellets with the Mastiff, you would deal a total damage of 104. And with the Mastiff, we get a 0% reduction to shots to the legs. So we still have a damage of 13 and 104 total when you hit all 8 shots. For our headshots, we see we get a damage multiplier of 1.25. So each pellet will be hitting for a damage of 16 with a total of 128 damage for shots to the head. With shots to the head, we see that the multiplier actually drops off at 38 meters. So if you want that damage multiplier, you're going to have to get up close and personal with the Mastiff. We'll see that the Mastiff is completely different than the Peacekeeper in the aspect that you do not want to use this weapon at longer ranges. For our fire, we see that the Mastiff without any shotgun bolt, we have actually pretty slow shots per second at 102. Taking into account our 1.02 shots per second, we see we can burn through our 6 shotgun shells in a matter of 5.06 seconds. So with the Mastiff in the shotgun category, the DPS actually changes when you attach a shotgun bolt. But for the base Mastiff, we see that we get a DPS of 123.76 damage per second. Obviously, you cannot get 123 damage per second with the Mastiff, so the max damage you can get out of the Mastiff in 1 second is 104. Taking all this into consideration, for the base Mastiff, we see we get a time to kill of 0 seconds for 100 damage. And if you get a headshot with the Mastiff, you will also take 0 seconds to down someone with an Evo shield. However, we're just going to take into consideration shots to the body. We see that up to 200 damage, it will take 1.02 seconds to down someone with 2 shots. But as I'll explain later in the video, in order to get that potential time to kill of 1.02, it will matter just how many pellets you land. And then with the red Evo shield, 225 damage, we see it will take 2.04 seconds. Now looking at our shots to kill, I'm not only going to break this down by shots, but I'm also going to break this down by pellets, because I believe it's a more accurate way to depict how much damage you're actually going to be dealing with the Mastiff. So for 100 damage, we see that it will take 1 shot landing all 8 pellets. 125, we see it will take 2 shots landing 10 pellets. 150, 2 shots with 12 pellets. 175 will take still 2 shots but will require 14 pellets. And for 200 damage, you will need to land all 16 pellets in both shots. And then looking at Red Evo Shield, 225 damage, it will take 3 shots and you will need to land 18 pellets. Now, we all know we can miss our shots, but with the Mastiff, if you want to really be able to get the most out of this weapon, you want to really take your time and line up your shots so you can land as many pellets as possible. And after this, I'll give you a little tip on how to do that. So for how many shots or pellets you can miss, to deal 100 damage, you can miss up to 5 shotgun shells, or if you're trying to go for that insta-kill, you're going to have to miss 0 pellets. For 125 damage through 200 damage, you can miss 4 shots. However, if you want the fastest time to kill, you'll have to hit for 125, 6 pellets. For 150, you can only miss 4 pellets. For 175, you can miss 2 pellets, and for 200 damage you can miss 0 out of 16 pellets. For 225 damage, you see you miss 3 shots or 24 pellets out of the 3 shots. Now for the Mastiff, what we're going to look at for the recoil is the spread of each shot. And if you're not used to the Mastiff's animation when it has that big kickback like the wingman, it may obscure your vision. So something to take note of, and the little tip that I got is that in order to time your spread of the pellets, you want to aim down sights, and this will help increase your accuracy, especially since the spread of the pellets actually follow the iron sights that are unique to the Mastiff. And speaking of the sights, I personally never put sights on this gun due to how clean your field of view is, and if you just get used to the feel of the kickback for the Mastiff, it will never be an issue. Then with the hipfire for the Mastiff, it is also unique, with the hipfire spread being the only weapon in Apex that actually gives you a good indication of the spread of the weapon. Now looking at our max potential damage, we see out of 6 shells you can deal 624 damage. Jumping into our final base handling stats, we have an aim down sight time of 0.2 seconds, a draw time of 0.55 seconds, and for our Mastiff, we get a reload speed of 3.75 seconds. And then for a tactical reload, the Mastiff has this unique animation where you can actually shoot between each reload of a shell, so it'll take you 0.85 seconds to reload each shot. Then as we see with all shotguns, we get a 10% reduction in movement speed when aiming down sights. And with that, we finished covering the base stats for the Mastiff. Now we're going to get into the only attachment that can be placed upon the Mastiff other than the sights, and that's the shotgun bolt. And this attachment changes a couple different things. What it changes is the fire rate and how quickly you burn through your shotgun shells, which changes our DPS and our time to kill. For our fire rate, we see that with a level 1 shotgun bolt, you get a fire rate of 2.05 shots per second. So even with the base shotgun shell, we see that we're actually able to get 2 shots off rather than 1 in 1 second. With the level 2 shotgun bolt, we see we can get a shots per second of 2.14. And then finally with the level 3, we get a shots per second of 2.24. So with our new fire rate in the level 1 bolt, we see that you can burn through all 6 shotgun shells in 4.65 seconds. And for our level 2 bolt, you see we can burn through our shotgun shells in 4.41 seconds. The level 3 bolt, we get a time of 4.24 seconds, compared to our original 5.06 shots per second. Taking these both into consideration, we get a new DPS of 213 with a level 1, and then with the level 2, we get a DPS of 222.56 damage per second. Then with level 3, we get a DPS of 232.96. For our DPS, we can only really see a statistical difference, but it's when we talk about our time to kill that we can actually feel a difference. For level 1 bolt, we see we have a time to kill of 0 seconds for 100 damage, 0.93 seconds for 125 to 200 damage, and then for a red Evo shield, we get a time to kill of 1.89 seconds. For a level 2 bolt, we see we get a time to kill of 0 for 100 damage. For 125 to 200 damage, we get a time to kill of 0.89 seconds. And then for a red Evo shield, we get a time to kill of 1.77 seconds. And lastly, our level 3 bolt, we get a time to kill of 0 for 100 damage again, and 0.84 seconds for 125 through 200 damage. And then for 225 damage, we see we get a time to kill of 1.7 seconds. And that's the only attachment other than the sights that can be placed upon the Mastiff. Now we're going to move on to what makes Apex Legends so unique, and that's how we have legends being classed in the different roles in the Battle Royale. And that changes how you approach different legends with the same weapon. But real quick, if you have enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and let me know you guys are enjoying these very in-depth breakdowns, and leave a comment down below of what weapon you guys want me to do next. So now we're going to start off with low profile legends. This includes Wraith, Pathfinder, Lifeline, and Watson. For our damage for low profile legends, we see each pellet hit to the body and the legs for 14 with a total damage of 112. For our headshots, we see that each pellet hits for 17, giving us a total damage of 136 for shots to the head. Factoring that into our DPS, along with our shotgun bolts, we see that for no bolt, we get a DPS of 133.38. For level 1, we get a DPS of 229.6. And then for level 2, we get a DPS of 239.96. And then finally, with our level 3 bolt, we get a total DPS of 250.88. For our shots to kill, to deal 100 damage, we have 1 shell, landing all 8 pellets. For 125 to 200, it will take 2 shots. Breaking that down, 125 will need 9 shots, 150 will need 11, 175 will need 13, 200 you will need to hit 15 out of 16 pellets. For 225 damage, you will need to hit 3 shots and hit 17 out of the 24 pellets. Now it's time to get into the stats for the thick boys, Gibraltar and Caustic, and these are the only legends that could reasonably put up a good fight with the Mastiff, due to how the pellets only hit for 11 damage, giving us a total damage of 88. And for our headshots, we see we have a damage of 14, which is the equivalent for a body shot for a low profile legend, giving us a total headshot of 112. So in the case of the Fortified legends, if you have the Mastiff, you want to really line up those headshots so you can get the most damage. But on the flip side of that, if you're on a team and you have a Gibraltar or a Caustic and you hear a Mastiff, you're probably going to have to be the one that engages, since you will take the least amount of damage. Because we see with no bolt, our DPS is 88.76. And then with a level 1 bolt, the DPS goes up to 180 damage per second. With a level 2, we get 188.32. And then with a level 3, you get a DPS of 197.12. So for our shots to kill, we see right away that there's no one-shot potential to down someone, unlike all other legends. Unless with the Mastiff you're able to land a headshot and they have no body armor, that's the only time you'll be able to down a Gibraltar or a Caustic in one shot. But if we're only going to take in consideration body shots, we see it will take 2 shots from 100 damage to 175 damage, and you will need to land 10 pellets for 100 damage, 125 will need 12 pellets, 150 will need 14, 175 you will need to land all 16 pellets. Then for 200 through 225 you will need to land 3 shots, 19 for 200 and 21 for 225. And with those final stats, we conclude the in-depth breakdown of the Mastiff. My final thoughts, the only weak spot really for the Mastiff is distance shot, because even when you tighten the spread of your shots with ADS, it's still pretty wide, especially from a distance. And that's why it's a care package weapon. From the reload to damage, you can seriously tear any legend a new one and still have enough to pump some into their friends. I should probably change that. But seriously, if you guys want to have fun this season and you want to seriously put up some crazy high damage and get used to the Mastiff and get to use some of those Mastiff skins you never get a chance to, this is your chance. But with that, be the best you can be, and I'll see you in the next video.